The Gaming Lovers podcast game would like to access your photos, camera, financial information, your blood type, and your firstborn child. Click OK.
Oof, this is starting to sound like a Rumpelstiltskin deal.
The Gaming Lovers podcast with Brendo and Jem.
Well, we're no stranger to those sort of pop-ups.
Except for maybe the firstborn child.
Oh, I'm sure I had that shop on at least 3 of them.
G'day and welcome to the Gaming Lovers episode 33.
Brendo here.
Jem here.
And we are the Gaming Lovers.
At the end of our last episode, we had a tweet, I believe it was, that you had from a listener asking...
DM.
I'm sorry.
It was private.
Ooh.
And then I shared it on a podcast.
No longer
worldwide.
Private DMs. Anyway, asking about mobile games and what we would recommend, basically, was the gist. So we have been downloading like a bunch of free, I use air quotes, I think my finger's cracked, free games, testing out some ones that we don't normally play just to try to widen the field a little bit. And for Brendo, that means trying them really for the first time.
I'm not a mobile gamer at all. I always prefer games to be enjoyed with a controller, with buttons and things to actually give me tactile feedback.
The thing is, though, so many modern consoles are using the touchscreen features in them in some way, shape or form, especially the Switch. So it's kind of funny. Your aversion to this is something you're going to have to get used to as video games continue to go down that path. But anyway, before we get to that, we have to cover gaming goals.
Well, unfortunately, I haven't had many gaming goals because I've been spending my entire time playing mobile games.
What have you been able to squeeze in the midst of all the mobile gaming?
Well, I suppose I did do a little bit. I now have 8 badges in Pokemon Let's Go Eevee.
Ooh.
I'm ready for the Pokemon League.
You're ahead of me.
I am.
So I only played a little bit of Pokemon Let's Go this week. I've been very much engrossed in ancient Greece with my Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
I'm fairly certain that's the reason why I've overtaken you in Pokemon Let's Go, because you've put now 98 hours into Assassin's Creed.
It's closer to 90. But yeah, it's insane. And I keep looking at the progress bar and it's barely moved. I'm like, how is this possible? I've played so many hours and I feel like I've barely gotten anywhere. But I think that was the trophy progress bar, so it might be a little further along in the story than I realised. So
you should never let that affect your enjoyment of a game.
It's not so much that, it's just I'm still freaking out at just how big this game is. I'm not complaining about that at all. It's just, okay. It's always, when you're trying to figure out what to play next, having a game as beefy as Assassin's Creed Odyssey has been is a little daunting because you're like, how do I have time for this? And, I've been chipping away at this game for what feels like months now. And putting substantial hours into it and still got a ways to go. So it's understandable why certain people just don't even touch RPGs because they're so huge.
Or even open world games in general.
I'm really enjoying it, but I'm like, whoa, I want to play some other stuff too, so I'm hoping I can get the end game started soon.
Well, for those who have thought it was a bit too daunting, you have missed out on incredible, iconic, historical characters such as Testicles and Stupidio.
Yes.
Which I'm sure can be found in any history book.
I'm sure. I love it. There's been some really funny moments like that. And some moments because they try to have everything kind of grounded a little bit in history, so legends that you hear of are kind of just stories blown out of proportion. But this game it does that, but then it also flips on its head and then it makes other stuff real, because the game dabbles in, I guess, some supernatural stuff anyway throughout the other game, so that's not really a spoiler. There are moments where you'll hear them talking about things, or you've got famous iconic things like a Sphinx figure, and then suddenly you're face to face with one and you're like, oh, okay, everything else in this game has been pretty normal and now we've gone the other way. Cool, just let me catch up. Just get that headspace right. So, but it's been fun. I feel like I've been repeating myself a lot the last few weeks.
Well, we have stated that we are in the midst of some mighty large games. Myself, we could use almost that same statement of most of the game is grounded in reality and then it just sort of goes flipped on its head.
Yep.
Hey, it's Yakuza 0! I'm now in the Osaka region playing as Goro Majima, which I'm very excited. He's been one of my favourite characters throughout the entire series. Now I actually get to play as him.
Yep.
And unlike Kiryu, who has 3 different style of martial arts to fight with, Majima, one of his is just basically using a baseball bat. So he likes to get right down to business.
Yes, and it was interesting because when they first introduced his character, he just seems so normal. And if you've played the other games, he's quite a crazy, like, intense character. So to see him talk like a normal, civilized human being, you're like, how did you break? Are we going to find out what happened? But then you realize, oh, you just pushing that deep down. You hiding that side of you. Okay. So
Yeah.
It was really fun to see.
Majima, not only it was voiced by Mark Hamill in the English dub of Yakuza 1, which
The only
was
good part of that dubbing.
terrible. Yakuza Kiwami, much better place to start off with the remake. But Majima is basically halfway to Mark Hamill's Joker anyway, so it's not that much of a stretch. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
It has been fun. I have not really focused on the missions in that section of the game because, yet again, I am finding myself distracted by all sorts of stupid things, whether it be trying to win a stuffed toy out of a UFO catcher at the local game station for a small child and befriending them, because that's what we all do to strange children hanging outside of arcades.
Oh, please tell me that you don't do that in real life.
Well, there is also a resource, weapon, blueprint sort of hunting minigame that feels a lot like something that you would find in an Assassin's Creed game, where you would send out your crew throughout the various regions of the world to do little missions, build up their fleet, in the earlier Assassin's Creed games, the 3 and 4 in particular I'm talking about. They had little mini missions where you could access like a little map, send this guy out to Panama with this boat, and he'll be back in 5 minutes, real time, and he's got a 95% success rate of succeeding that mission. Yakuza 0 has that sort of thing too. So instead, I'm sending people out to the far stretches of the world to pick up rare and valuable items or materials. It's kind of fun because it's not something you really focus on. It's just something you set people to do, and then you come back when your pager beeps because, yes, pagers are cutting-edge technology in 1988.
Oh man, they got superseded so fast. It's kind of funny, even just watching TV shows these days, seeing them use pages, and you're like, that's so redundant. Like, they got replaced by text messages in such a rapid, short amount of time. Anyway, I think that's everything as far as our gaming goals.
Yeah, it's been a Dark Souls-less week, unfortunately. I haven't had time to really dive into that game as much as I would like to.
No, because you've been busy doing homework.
Busy playing mobile games. That's what we
Yep.
can blame.
Yep.
I've been busy playing games instead of playing games. I'm so upset.
Playing the games that you possibly did not want to be playing because you were doing research.
So really, this is quite a short episode of Gaming Goals because we have been focusing so much on mobile games, but we will be discussing them for the bulk of the episode.
Share the love. Follow us on Twitter at Brendo Jem. That's BRENDOJEM.
So just to recap, last episode we received a direct message that specifically asked, are there free mobile games that we recommend that are enjoyable enough on their own merits without requiring extra payment? That can be mighty difficult in the world of mobile games.
Honestly, it requires a little more self-control. Some games are designed in such a way that they really make it almost impossible to beat the game unless you shell out real money. But there are plenty of games that, while they do have in-app purchases, you can still get through them quite easily without ever having to spend a single cent, dime, yen, whatever currency you use.
And that is the kicker. When the App Store, when we first got our iPhones, the App Store would label games as free. And perhaps that free would have a plus next to it to indicate that there are actually purchases. The language has changed since then because people have discovered those games, if they want to have them to the best of their abilities, are not free. So now it says install. And it does not say free.
Some will say free with a little, in very fine grey writing, in-app purchases underneath, at least on the iOS. We both have different phones. You're an Android, I am a Mac user. So there are some differences, especially with games that are available. So we'll cover on that a little bit as well. So we will have our, I think, top...
I have 3.
I have 3. Top 3 games. So we'll save those for the end. Our absolute top recommended favourite free-to-play mobile games. But there were so many, especially for me,
I tried
that I love.
a lot of games, and some of them I enjoyed, but they were disqualified from the...
Didn't quite meet all the requirements?
Some of them I enjoyed, but they had, a free trial. You can get the first chapter, but then the rest of it you have to pay for. So I enjoyed those games, but they could not make the list. And then there were other ones that were completely free that were garbage. And then, of course, there were games that I saw on the Play Store, the Google Play Store, that I'm like, oh, I want to play that. But there's a cost involved from the get-go. So, of course, they were disqualified. But those sort of categories, I think we should still talk about because we've tried a lot. We've been playing games on various things for years. I'll admit I've dabbled in the realm of mobile gaming a bit in the past.
There's nothing to be ashamed of. It is just another console, really.
Hi.
Having a phone. You got to understand, I know that there is quite a stigma to mobile games, and a lot of purists really don't like it. But there are some pretty great classics out there, and honestly, for people on the go, when you can't have, your console games or even your Switch with you, it is wonderful to have these to just play even for short bursts. So I have a couple of different categories of some that are paid, some old classics that are still good today, like things that have been out for nearly a decade, really. As long as smartphones have been around, they've been around. So the original games that started it all, I guess, as far as mobile gaming goes that we know of. And yeah, we'll make our way towards our top 3. It's be interesting to see what you choose versus what I choose.
Probably different styles of games, that we have different uses for our video gaming. You like to just have it as a distraction to enjoy something else at the same time a lot of the time. You are happy to play in 30-second bursts at times. I really am not. So it's going to be different. Very interesting to see how our lists line up.
Absolutely. See, sometimes I will have my phone out. I'm shocking because I get really, it's probably a bad thing, but I get antsy during long loading screens and stuff. When I'm playing, say, Assassin's Creed and there's a really long load screen, I'll whip out my phone and I'll play a really short round of a game for 30 seconds and then pop it back down.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a bad thing. You have
I've got
attention deficit issues.
I love it.
The funny thing is, when I'm out and about, sometimes I have more patience to wait for stuff, but when I'm at home and sitting there waiting for something, I find I'm like, nah, I can't. I'm wasting time right now. I want to do something. This is boring. So yeah, it's funny how my
That's
mentality
just family
shifts.
dinner.
Oh, yes. What can I play during Christmas when it hits a lull? No. All right, let's jump into this. Speaking of jumping, I want to start off with classics, okay? So early smartphone games.
Cast your minds back 9, almost 10 years.
And I want to emphasize these are smartphone games because obviously when we're talking about mobile games, a lot of people couldn't say Snake,
Well, you see, that's the thing. By the time Snake came out on the early Nokia 5400s, whatever the numbers were, I never paid attention to the actual
47?
numbers. The thing is, I had played my share of Snake on my 286 PC. Now, for those who are keeping track of PC numbers back in the 90s, a 486 meant that you were top dog. A 386 meant that your computer was adequate. I had a 286. It was very slow, very weak, but it could play Snake, and I played Snake on that a lot. So when Snake came out and everyone's like, oh, have you played Snake? I was like, yeah, like 10 years ago, man.
Such a hipster.
But I don't know. I had that attitude in that time frame.
Yes.
I was like, no, I've been there, I've done that.
Yes, you
I
were very
liked
much like that.
Hey There, Delilah before it came out on radio. I had a friend who was like that. Hi, Ian. But that sort of attitude I had when it came to gaming, it was like, no, I've already known about this, so I don't want to play it now.
Yeah.
So when Snake came out on mobiles, I'm like, ew, gross.
Ew.
Ew, disgusting.
Thanks, Jimmy Fallon.
But then when smartphones rolled around and suddenly you could have games that actually have graphics, who would have thought?
Mm-hmm. And Snake is still around today. There's so many iterations of it. It's one of those games like Solitaire or Tetris that is just going to constantly be reskinned.
Mm-hmm.
I get reskinned and it's a snake.
Because it sheds its skin.
Anyway, so that's obviously one of them. But what we're focusing on is things that have been around ever since, I guess, touch screen games have been around for like mobiles and even like iPods, the iTouches or whatever they were called when they started introducing those. So Doodle Jump was one of the first ones we got really into and we fell in love with it, especially I remember we were at the Gold Coast up in Queensland the theme parks.
Yes.
And because the lines were, you'd have to wait 20, 30 minutes in a queue, we would whip out the phone and we'd take turns playing Doodle Jump. And it was just such a great way to kill the time. And by the time you got to the front, you're like, oh, cool.
Simple game. You just hold your phone up vertically. There's a little alien dude who jumps on trampolines. You tilt the phone left or right to move him and try to land him on the next trampoline up. And if you hit the bottom of the screen, you dead.
You did.
Simple enough, but it's addictive
and a little tricky. So, and it obviously gets harder and harder the higher you manage to get up. There are free versions and there's paid versions. It's not super expensive, so even if you do have to pay, it's like $1 or $2. And they have like Christmas editions and all sorts of there's even spin-off games that have come off this because it's been around so long and been so popular. It's one of those ones that now when you search for it, like 10 different things pop up. So yeah, that one came to mind.
Now, it was early in our relationship that I actually got my first iPhone, which was the 3GS. I felt very impressive and made someone a little jealous.
Yes.
That someone was you.
Yes.
But I know that when you think of flinging something at a structure and trying to knock down the structure and destroy the creatures inside of it, most people think of Angry Birds, which of course became a worldwide phenomenon. There is a terrible movie that was made. There are about 18 different variants of the Angry Birds games nowadays. But predating that was a little game that I had. I had it downloaded in the year 1BAB, which is before Angry Birds, was a game called Crush the Castles.
Loved that game.
And my prospective girlfriend absolutely adored it.
Yes.
Were you my girlfriend then? I can't.
Yeah.
Okay, I was trying to
We were
remember.
dating because I remember when you
2009,
first got
yes, it
your
was.
smartphone, you came into the radio station to show it off while I was working. And I just remember being like, everyone else has an iPhone and I've still got my old flip phone.
Oh, just from my notes, Crush the Castles came out in April 2009. Angry Birds launched in December.
Ooh.
So that's why I was like, we started dating in May 2009. So I was like, ooh, yeah, it's sort of that. I wasn't quite sure.
Crossover stage, yep.
But you certainly liked that, and you were just in love with the ragdoll physics
Love
involved.
ragdoll physics in any game. That's why I enjoy What's that motorcycle game on the Xbox?
Trials.
Trials. I love Trials. I love just doing the destructive levels and deliberately sending that poor person flying.
Trying to break as many bones as
Yes.
you can down the hill. Wonderful.
I don't care about the tracks. I just want to do that mini game over and over. But yeah, crash the castle, sending a little person flying into another castle and crushing all the people living in it, and it's
Basically a medieval Angry Birds
Yes.
before Angry Birds existed.
exactly. And so when Angry Birds took off, I'm like, no. Everyone's like, oh, it's so you're innovative and fun and da da. I'm like, this is Crush the Castle reskinned. So
And what's more fun to launch something out of? A little slingshot or like a catapult?
yes,
Much
a
more fun.
trebuchet, like
Ooh.
a proper medieval weapon of war. Another one that I downloaded, I think, almost upon launch when it came out, when I finally had a smartphone, was Tiny Tower.
A game you still play to this day.
Yes. Although now that it's on another, because I've had different phones since then, I have to start from scratch every time I re-download it. But that's okay. It's one of those games, again, it can have in-app purchases. And I remember having friends when it first came out paying a lot of money just so that they could build it all really quickly because they were too impatient to let it run its course. And I managed to, in the early days, get everything, like all the levels, every store, every apartment type, everything built, all without spending a single cent myself. Like, I was patient.
Impressive.
So now they've added quite a lot more. It's taking me a bit longer to catch back up.
Did you actually ever play the Tiny Death Star version?
No, there's a Death Star version?
Yes, there is.
Oh my goodness, I'm downloading that right now. So you keep talking.
And why did I know that this was going to happen as soon as I mentioned anything?
Tiny Death Star.
Taunt.
Taunt. The hate when that happens. With the
Oh, it might have only been a limited time offer.
Tiny Tower Vegas. Tiny
Guess what?
Pocket Planes. No, you can't tease me like this and then take it away. That's
It's
not
all right.
fair.
I'll edit it out of the podcast and it'll
No.
be like it never existed. Your mental state will be just like it was before I mentioned it. Look, Vegas.
Death Star.
Tiny Tower Vegas, honey.
It's not the same.
I'm laughing at my wife's distress. This is not good for our relationship.
Okay. Another classic would be Bejeweled. And that style of game of matching colours has been around for a long time. Long before there was even Bejeweled, really. There were versions of that we would play on our PC, like our old PCs on floppy disks.
Yep.
I can't remember what they were called, but I do remember playing those types of games, like, you know, when I was 10 years old. So, Bejeweled has been one of the, I guess, the flag bearer?
Yeah, it was
The
one of the
standard
big
bearer?
ones early on, Bejeweled.
Yeah. And then the Bejeweled Blitz that you could play on Facebook took off. But then there's versions of that for the phone. But then Candy Crush took that and then found a way to make money out of it.
Of course it did.
Yes, by giving you so many lives and timers and, oh, you can't play this because you've run out of times and lives and da-da-da. Come back in
but
another
if
half an hour.
If you pay $1.49,
Yeah.
you can do a level now.
So, and then there's like a bajillion clones of that formula, and they all do well because simple puzzle games like that are a fun, quick way to kind of divert the time. I find I like playing those kind of games if I'm listening to something else. If I'm listening to a podcast, I'll play a game like that I can kind of focus and get my, I guess, a little bit of energy out of my hands, like if it's nervous energy, and I can then focus a little better on what I'm listening to or whatever. So
See, I'm the complete opposite. It must be because I have a simple man brain. But if I'm trying to focus, if I'm trying to listen to something or whatever, and then I'm got my phone out and I'm fiddling on that, then my attention goes to the phone and I pay attention to the TV that I was supposed to be paying attention to, and I'm like, oh, I've completely missed this whole thing. I suppose I'll rewind.
Well, that's the point, though, is that you've got to make sure that you're playing a game that is simple enough to keep you busy, but not so engrossing that you can't focus on something else. So the beauty of a game like Bejeweled or Candy Crush or those kind of puzzle games is that they're so simplistic that you can kind of do it without really even thinking. At least for me.
No, I agree to disagree. You're wrong. Never mind.
That's
Move
just
on.
how my
Nah.
brain is wired then.
No, never mind. It's not important, but you're wrong. But that's all right.
All right. What about you? Any like classic games that you remember from early days, or is that pretty much it?
It's pretty much it for me. Like I had the few games when I first got my smartphone, but I quickly learnt that I wasn't getting satisfied from these games. I wasn't getting fulfilled. My gaming time could be better spent on an actual game. Whether that was whether it was my DS that I would carry around and play Pokemon or Super Mario Brothers or whatever. Anything was better than a mobile game for me. Because at least I was working towards a story point or a achievement of beating a game on a certain difficulty or collecting all the coins in this world.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm more goal orientated like that. I can't just play a game for 5 seconds to just play it for 5 seconds. It doesn't fulfill me that way.
But a lot of them are based on arcade games that you would have grown up with. So that structure of like Pac-Man, where it's more just trying to get a high score, does playing that annoy you, or does it?
If Pac-Man had a campaign where you start at level 1 and have to get X amount of points to move on to level 2, I'd probably enjoy it more than just a game of, here's Pac-Man, how well
Survive.
can you do? I like to challenge myself against set goals. We've
that is a
explained this
goal, though.
many times
Of
over
trying
the podcast.
to break the high scores of someone else. That's a goal.
Yeah, but there you said it. Trying to beat someone else's score. That doesn't stimulate me in games as much as beating a preset hurdle. That's why I would always prefer to do an obstacle course than run a foot race against someone. I want to see if I can get through this. A to B, I've achieved that goal. Not so much, I'm better than you. For someone who loves games as much as me, people get baffled by that lack of competitiveness. And I think part of that is because every time I was competitive and I did beat people, they resented me for it, and I therefore do not enjoy playing multiplayer games against other people as much.
I can remember a series that I have played a lot on my phone. I can't actually play anymore because they have never updated them to keep up with the current iOS.
Oh no.
Yeah, so haven't been able to re-download them on my new phone, but they drove you bonkers. It was the Sally's like salon kind of series.
Or the hamburger shop.
Yep, or making chocolates, Sally's studio with like yoga and stuff. And that has progression. That has stars and goals, mini achievements and things like that. All the things that you say you want were in those games. You drove you nuts because it gets faster and faster and faster. You have to like serve people before they crack it, basically. And I do really well with those kind of games, and you would look at me like, how can you waste so much time playing those stupid games?
And you see, that's the difference as well when we play Overcooked. You love it, I get frustrated by it. I still enjoy the game for what it is, but I can only play a certain amount of Overcooked before I'm like, I am done. My brain is sizzled. Serve it up on a plate. It is ready to be put out there.
There's only been one game that I've gotten really mad at, which was Happy Park. I think it was called something else in the early days, but it's kind of was supposed to be a similar port to Theme Park World. Do you remember that?
Of course.
On the PC.
Speaking of which, another game like Roller Coaster Tycoon called Parkitect just came out this week.
Oh. Okay. See, I loved Theme Park World as a kid, and I've been trying to find something that matches up to it closely, and nothing has quite hit the mark for me as feeling the same as that game, like pacing and structure and all that stuff. And then it's called Happy Park now, but I feel like it had a different name when I had downloaded it. And I was playing it, and then one day after finally getting to a point where I had done really well and was starting to build momentum, it deleted, it wiped my file and made me start again from scratch.
That's disappointing.
I got so angry with it. I have not downloaded it again since.
Was it an instant delete?
Yes.
Okay.
It was the kind of like, you are dead to me. I am so mad. so mad. But yeah, just wanted to share that story. Because sometimes I do love a lot of mobile games, but there are times I get mad at them too.
I was hoping for a happier ending than that. And then I restored my purchases and it all came back to me. No? Never mind.
No. Sadly, it did not. Some mobile games, especially if they're linked with big brand companies, will allow you to create like an online profile where they store data of your progress. So if the game does get deleted or something happens, that you can reload it by logging onto your account and it will know where you are up to, so it saves your progress. But otherwise, a lot of these games, like if they get wiped or deleted, or if there's a crash in the system for some reason, that sometimes your progress can be lost, which can be devastating if you've been spending, months building up this amazing theme park and it just goes crashing down.
Sploop.
Yes.
Go on.
Another one I wanted to mention just really quickly, I couldn't really find a category for it. It's kind of like a musical game. I guess kind of like a rhythm game, actually, called Piano Tiles. And there's a couple of different versions of it. And you're basically playing a lot of classical music and hitting the buttons or
Guitar
the tiles.
Hero style.
Yeah,
almost.
very Guitar Hero style as they come down. And it starts off easy, but it gets brutal. I find I have to put my phone on like a table or something, a flat surface. I can't hold the phone with one hand and do it with the other. I need both hands to play it, to be able to keep up and do well with this game. It's kind of challenging, but rewarding too. And one of the games I got really addicted to just because I've played piano, so I love a lot of those classic songs that they used. So
That makes sense.
yeah, little things like that can make all the difference.
Now, while I was browsing my way through the Play Store, I actually discovered that quite a few of my favourite handheld games from handheld consoles, like the Vita or the 3DS, for example, are actually available in HD on Android, on iPhone, and can be enjoyed by a wider audience. Now, from here on, we're going to be talking about games that actually cost money to buy.
Yep.
These, unfortunately, are not free, or I would be recommending them to absolutely everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But two series that I absolutely adore, which are the Ace Attorney Phoenix Wright series, almost entirely available on your phone. Now, individually, if they're not on sale, they do cost quite a bit. I'm talking $25 Australian, Aussie bucks, dollary doos. But they will keep you entertained for a story over the course of 10 to 12 hours. So it depends if you think it's worth it.
Yep.
If you're someone who likes to read or likes whodunits sort of thing, that's always a plus. And another series that made its mobile debut proper, not counting mobile spin-offs that have come out in the past, but this past week, Professor Layton has arrived on the Play Store.
There you go.
Professor Layton and the Curious Village is one of the games that sort of blew my mind when I first played it on the original Nintendo DS. It's about 10 years since that game came out. They've given it nice, crisp graphics that look lovely on your high-definition phone. All the puzzles are in there. If you like puzzles, if you like a story, if you like a bit of mystery and a bit of puzzles, like myself, that's just a me game written all over it. Professor Layton, I do highly recommend it. Just came out this week. There has been spin-offs in the past called Layton's Mystery Journey or something. Play similar, I assume. I haven't tried it, but they are also available, and I love puzzles and stories. I love stories and mysteries.
I think that style definitely would translate well to the mobile gaming world. That and like point and click adventures.
Yes.
Would work so well.
Which was something I was looking very hard to try and find a free point and click that was worth it. Unfortunately, everything I tried disappointed me. And I might just be looking at the wrong ones, but it's so tricky when all you really have to catch your eye is just a tile on the shop or a name. And you're like, I don't know which of these games is good.
That's what you need to read the reviews for. Like, look at the star rating, read the reviews, and see if the taste of those that are reviewing it seems to line up with, like, where you are as well. Just because someone loves a game doesn't mean that you're going to love it. You know, we all have things that we gravitate towards. For me, I'm one of my favorite that I have on my phone right now, which is a port of Knights of the Old Republic. And I remember flipping out, so excited seeing that in the iTunes store. I don't think it's called iTunes anymore. I think it's Apple apps and podcasts and whatnot. The Apple store.
Delicious, crispy.
But it's still, to me, one of the best Star Wars games of all time, and now I can play it anywhere I want to.
Fantastic. Back when BioWare was hitting home run after home run, and they've had a bit of a slump.
Yes.
But with the game, the Video Game Awards coming up very soon, we'll see, because they've said they've got something Dragon Age to tell everybody. And it's probably going to be a free-to-play mobile game with microtransactions coming out of its armpits. So get excited for that.
I can play those games and I can get around those microtransactions, don't you worry. But KOTOR, it works really well. Some RPGs wouldn't, like Mass Effect wouldn't really translate to a mobile game very easily. That would be frustrating trying to play a shooter game, I think, on my phone. But the brilliant thing with KOTOR is that combat is usually paused as soon as it starts. You can choose and set your attack styles and things like that.
It's turn-based.
It's very turn-based, and you can take your time and consider. And yeah, it works. It just, all the controls translate really easily over to a touch screen. And the fun thing is, like, because with Apples, I can link my accounts to like my iPad as well as my phone, so I can play on a slightly bigger touchscreen if I want to still make it feel a bit more cinematic. But because it's such an old game, having it on a small screen is actually doing it the graphics a favor.
100%. I was about to segue into that, because also available on these stores are not only the Baldur's Gate games, the enhanced editions, which, because I grew up playing them on a PC monitor with like a 640 by 480 resolution, I've played the enhanced editions even on my laptop screen, and everything seems weird because the screen's too big. The resolution is too high. The menus on the side of the screen look skinny as, because they've held their same properties, and it's like, it doesn't look right. So not only are they available on phones, which obviously, because a phone screen is so small, a slightly bigger one would be better, like we have. But I have just discovered, as we are recording this, that Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition is currently in development. And you can buy it early access on the Google Play Store. Now, they haven't ironed out all the kinks, but the fact that Neverwinter Nights is a game that I have fond memories about. We're talking about a post-KOTOR world of BioWare. It was their next PC game. I don't think you've ever played it.
No, I haven't.
But it is Dungeons & Dragons, their first 3D RPG, isometric view. I loved it. And the fact that I was considering playing it again on my laptop sometime soon, just haven't had the time.
You're about to hit that download button, aren't you?
It's a $14 purchase with in-app purchases, which may just be the DLC. But the fact that the screenshots show it, menu looks about the right size that I want. And the camera looks about the right height that I would want. It's like they made it for me.
I've never seen you so excited for a mobile game.
It's almost like it's a proper video game on a mobile.
Who'd have thought?
Which is just what I like. We established this.
So, look, this is where we've argued so much about mobile games. There are definitely good games there, but unfortunately you do have to shell out a little bit of money. But if they're good games, like any other video game that's on a console, you know, it is worth it, especially with it.
Not to beat a dead horse, but the fact that I would be playing it on a touchscreen and not using a keyboard and a mouse might dampen the experience. I'm not sure until I spend the $14. So if someone wants to donate to the Gaming Lovers podcast in the name of research and the progression of the video game industry, you would be doing 7.2 billion people worldwide a favour by donating a simple $13.99.
Oh, goodness. In the same vein, though, there are a lot of video games that have been ported, including Crazy Taxi.
Love Crazy Taxi?
Crazy. Quasi. Like Quasi Cupcake.
I do love Crazy Taxi. It's been a fond game in my nostalgia for many years.
Now, it has been reworked and revamped a little bit, but the process is still the same. The mechanics are still the same. And you just use the screen to tap left or right and make sure people get to where they need to be.
Sidebar. As I was trying to find free games that are enjoyable as per our challenge, I did try quite a few racing games. And the thing that annoyed me, the steering itself is fine because phones have gyroscopes in them now. You can steer left and right like you would like using a Wiimote or whatever to control a racing game. But so many of the games have automatic acceleration and braking. It's so simplified. I got bored within a minute and quit, delete. So racing games did not make my cut.
No, I didn't really have any in mine either. All the ones I've tried I've not been really all that into. I think most of the racing games that I've truly loved over the years tend to be the quirky ones anyway. The ones that they're racing, but they don't really follow normal racing rules, like Mario Kart, you know? So there's nothing like that I've tried thus far that have really hit that mark for me. There's plenty of Final Fantasy games, whether they are spin-offs or like pocket editions, like Final Fantasy 15 has a pocket edition and it looks really cute. Again, all of those cost money, but with Final Fantasy, I think, especially with the early stuff, I think that would adapt really well to being played on your phone.
Well, somebody may have purchased Final Fantasy 1 and 2 back in the day on his iPhone 3GS.
Yes.
And it was, those two games, out of all the Final Fantasy games, are probably the roughest to try.
Yeah.
Because obviously it was the start of a series.
Yes.
You expect that. But they were two that I'd never played before. They were available on my phone. I didn't enjoy them. And that may just be because the games themselves are not... I'll give mobile gaming the benefit of the doubt because Final Fantasy 2 is universally known as the single worst Final Fantasy game.
Well, there you go. So that might have something to do with it. I have not played Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition. I kind of want to, though, because it looks really cute.
Chibis.
Chibis. We love our chibis, as our artwork obviously shows on our podcast. I want to segue quickly into a subcategory of games that feature mini games on mobiles. There's two that I want to mention that are free to play, possible in-app purchases, but one in particular that your workplace made, which is so weird to say because Brendo, in case you didn't know, is a train driver for Metro trains here in Melbourne, and they did this music PSA, a public service announcement, quite a while ago now, that went viral. And it had like this kind of cutesy animation with a song that was "Dumb Ways to Die, so many dumb ways to die."
Which did go viral.
It did. It did. It was being even reviewed by the React YouTube channel, which means you know you've gone viral if those kids are watching it and reacting to it. Anyway, they made a game out of that because, of course, they did. They jumped on the bandwagon pretty quickly, actually. So clever for them, Metro making their money that way. And it's very similar to like WarioWare, the smooth move mini games.
Like micro games almost.
Yes, like you have like 2 seconds to react basically. And so they go through all the different death scenarios. So there's one mini game I remember where they say just don't push the red button. And you've got, I think, about 5 lives or something. And if you run out of lives, then game over. So you have to try not to die in all of the scenarios that pop up.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets faster and faster and harder to do. But it was very cutesy and simple, but fun and free, which is always good. And there is a Grumpy Cat worst game ever, which is also the same vein of the WarioWare like mini games.
Did it live up to its title or not live up to its title? I don't even know which way
I
to
guess
put
it
that.
depends on whether you like that style of gameplay or not. So if you hate those kind of fast-paced mini games where you have to just kind of react as quickly as possible, then it would be the worst game ever for you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you hate Grumpy Cat, but if you love Grumpy Cat and you enjoy those types of games, it's lots of fun.
But if it succeeds, by definition, it's failing, right? I'm so confused.
But yeah, I just wanted to mention those ones quickly. They're free. They're great. I think if you wanted to entertain maybe like a kid for a few minutes and hand them something without having to shell out any money and be like, hey, play this for like a couple of minutes just to shut them up. Lovingly.
I'll keep
And
that in mind.
yeah, so they are amusing little games that I wanted to add to the list.
Don't mind me, I'm just trying to unlock Gudetama the lazy egg in Hello Kitty Racer.
Ah, good.
Tama. I just really wanted to see Gudetama in his little egg car. Now I'm stuck. What have I done? I need 200 apples. Heart apples. I don't know if they're hearts or apples. Now I'm stuck.
There's a heart.
Game over.
There's another one I wanted to mention that is an indie game, as most of these are. Like
Pretty much everything we've talked about is almost an indie.
almost everything. But this one is Australian made, and so I just wanted to shine a little bit of a light on it. It's a puzzle game. Starts off really easy, but gets pretty hard. I think I got 10 levels in and then I got stuck. It's called Departed, and it has story mode, but when I first played it, this was, I think, maybe 2 years ago that I started. It was still on beta, but you have set tiles and you have to get through this puzzle area from one end to the other, but you've got like limited moveset and pathways, and so it's kind of like a maze mixed with like problem solving and stuff. So it's a real thinker's game. But it has like a story mode and it's got challenge mode and things like that, and it's Aussie made, so I just wanted to shine a little light on Departed and be like, yeah, Aussies. I think that's all the side stuff that I had, because there were so many things we wanted to talk about, just to give you an idea of what's out there and stuff before we mentioned our absolute favourites and our top picks.
Yeah, and also, we're not the definitive experts on this topic. You have your select few style of games that you like to play. And if you're being honest, usually stick within that realm.
Yeah.
I've explained about 18 times so far on this podcast, I'm not really a mobile gamer. And so, as such, there's probably been, 20, 30 phenomenal games that I've never heard of that everyone's like, oh, if I was putting together my list, I'd have these games in there for sure. And I'm like, I have no idea what Fortnite is. No, that's not a mobile. I have no idea what
That
this
is technically a mobile game. You can play it on your mobile,
true.
but that's not on our list, guys. Sorry.
Should have said Minecraft. That's another one that's...
Yep.
I've never even heard of Minecraft. Can you imagine the outcry? What sort of gaming lover are you?
I've played Minecraft. I've honestly not gotten as into Minecraft. I think had I played that as a kid, I would have been obsessed with it then. But because it came out too late in my lifetime, that it was just one of those things where I'm like, it's cute, but I'm like, I'm already bored with this. So I am always impressed though when people make incredible like landscapes or recreate things in that world. I think that's always pretty rad.
Yeah, like you said, if it had have caught me a few years, or maybe even a decade, depending on how old I am, a few years earlier, it may have been right up my alley, because I do like to create stuff in games. I went through a phase where I created my own Half-Life levels on PC.
Yep.
I tried to recreate my own house with a secret lift in the toilet. If you activated the toilet, you would go down into my secret base. Kind of awkward if anyone else hits the flush button. I actually made my very own 10-map campaign in StarCraft, and it was horribly imbalanced and not enjoyable in the slightest. But I wrote characters, I created a campaign story, mission, special mission objectives, all this sort of stuff. I like to create content in... there was a couple of years that I used to enjoy doing that, but that's probably passed since now. But if Minecraft had have rolled around, I probably would have been all over that, like a creeper on a diamond axe, diamond pick. I don't know.
Well, before we get to our top 3 picks, shoot us a message either at thegaminglovers.com or on social media. We want to know what your favourite mobile games are, what ones you'd recommend. And, you know, if we get a group discussion going, then we can all see what everyone else loves and maybe find some other games that unearth some diamonds in the rough.
Diamonds in the rough.
You're listening to the Gaming Lovers Podcast. Want to join the conversation? Visit thegaminglovers.com. Record your comment or question by clicking on the button on the right-hand side. And you could be featured in the next podcast.
So here we are.
It is time.
Our top 3 recommendations for free
Yes.
mobile games. Games that, although they may contain ads, they may contain microtransactions, they are still fully enjoyable without spending a unit of money.
All right, I'm going to go from 3 to 1.
Well, can I go first? Because
fine.
I actually have 2 honourable mentions,
Of
which
course
means
you
I
do.
actually enjoyed 5 games that I
Oh.
couldn't condense to a list of 3. Now, 2 of them I'm putting in there as sort of honourable mentions because they're conditional recommendations.
Okay.
One of which I found very late in this research a genre of game that seemed right up my alley. Now, I was trying to find things that suited me best. I love escape rooms, and there were quite a few escape rooms that I tried on mobile for free. I know there's some good ones. Actually, I completely forgot to talk about something earlier. So before I get to my honourable mentions, everybody should download The Room and play that series.
The Room.
The Room. I got the first one for free. It might have been on a sale, just like I got Hitman Sniper for free when it was on a sale this week, but I couldn't recommend it because it actually costs money now that the podcast's dropping. So that's out of the equation. The Room is basically, you start off with a box, and there's all sorts of knobs, twists, levers, icons. There's a solar system on this side. There's this on that side. You know, your general escape room style thing. You start by there's a key in this one. Okay, I found where to put the key. Okay, I've got a sheet of paper with pictures on it. All that sort of stuff. It has its own lore. It has its own story to be revealed. There's 4 games. They are all among the top list. If you look for top mobile games, you will find The Room and its series among the peak of just about any list you look at. And it is something I have played in the past and I greatly enjoyed, but it is not free. So forego a coffee or 2 and use those funds to get The Room because I recommend it, and I'll probably download the rest of them this week.
Okay, so now your honourable mentions.
Sorry about the distraction there. I just completely forgot about it. But yes, escape rooms. I tried a lot of them, and the free ones either looked bad, played bad, or just were terrible. I didn't find anything for free that was fully enjoyable. I also looked a lot at visual novels because I thought that would be a good fit on mobile. Couldn't find any that were free. Now, of course, I'm not being a complete cheapskate. If people make good work, they obviously want to be paid for it. But with this challenge, I found it difficult to find the genres that I expected to find a good game in. There was a game I downloaded called Innocent, and that is like a mobile simulator. You open the game, you have messages, phone calls, options, just like you would with your phone.
I'm going to play my phone on my phone.
Now,
Wait, what?
The game starts off, you get like a message from your ex, for example, and you can choose how to respond to their messages. They are headed to their auntie's wedding or something and are looking for someone to take with them. Things are a bit awkward. You can choose to build or basically sabotage the relationship. Then you get a message from your friend who is divorced, is having issues getting access to his kid, and you again can contact them. But then there's also a few twists and turns in the story. I enjoyed it for what it was. I didn't get far enough into it to give it a full recommendation. There are mini games you have to play to unlock certain things further along, but overall, I had a good time with the short time that I played it.
Mm-hmm.
Innocent is what it is called. Its icon looks like a butterfly, a black butterfly on a white background. So if you are curious, give it a try. It gets a conditional recommendation on it. If the rest of the game is garbage, I'm sorry, I didn't get enough time to play it.
If you're doing honourable mentions, then I want to do honourable mentions.
Well, go right ahead.
Fruit Ninja.
Fruit Ninja.
Yes.
Free?
It's still free.
Cool.
And that's another Aussie game on mobile. So it's a classic. It's been around for a while, but that's always a fun one and colourful and makes me want to eat fruit.
Now, the other game that I did not want to put into my top 3 for the very simple reason that I do not want to explain it, which would have made a very short entry in my main list. It is called There Is No Game.
Okay.
So, There Is No Game is available on the Android Play Store. I don't think it's on the iOS Apple Store, personally. Now, all I want to say about this game, it's something that I downloaded blind. Because people say, just play it. Download it, open it up. And so I did. And if that's not enough of a recommendation for you, download it and open it up. I'll say 3 words that it reminded me of. The Stanley Parable.
Oh, you got my attention.
And that's all I'm going to say. If you are curious and you have an Android device, download it. I will set you up with it later for your reactions.
Okay.
And good time will be had by all.
Love the Stanley Parable. If you haven't played the Stanley Parable, like, side note, please just go and download it off Steam and enjoy. It's so much fun. It's simple, but brilliant all at the same time. And that's all I'll say.
Excellent. All right, who would like to start on their actual list? Now that we've gone through all the free games that are bad and the paid games that are good and the ports that we love and the classic games that we love and the recommendations and the Room. Since I forgot to download the Room, make sure you download the Room.
Well, I want to say one more honourable mention and then you can start yours. How does that sound?
Go crazy.
Another honourable mention is The Sims, which is obviously, a classic game from PC days, but there is a mobile version which, believe it or not, you can play for free.
Ooh.
Lots of in-app purchases.
Oh, I would expect nothing less.
Because it's The Sims. But it's kind of cool that a game with a title and a brand as big as The Sims, you can start off for free. And if you are patient enough, you can get a fair amount done without having to pay anything. So if you loved The Sims or you still love The Sims or want to play The Sims but never wanted to actually pay money, there is a way to do that. So it's obviously a condensed, slightly different kind of feel, but yeah, just putting that one out there as an honourable mention as we get to our top 3.
Times 2, because we
Yes.
both have a top 3, so really it's
All right.
not a top 6. They're not ranked, but it's 2 top 3 lists.
Have you ranked yours? Are yours in order?
I have not really, because they hit 3 very different targets, and I did not know which one to put first. So I'll probably start with the one that will get me booed the most first, because it's a predictable pick. It has been mentioned on this podcast before, and it is Pokemon Go. A game that has been out for 2 years. We downloaded it very early and got bored very quick because there was very little to do.
And it was glitchy and it kept just crashing, or it would tell us that we were going too fast and it wouldn't let us keep playing, and it was buggy. Yeah.
The fact that we also don't live in a urban hub means we have very limited Pokestops nearby, which means we get very little spawn rates on Pokemon.
Yeah.
We have a very select few. If you want a Zigzagoon, we've got plenty. But apart from that, there's not many.
Yeah. Days that we go into the city, we're like, yeah, there's Pokestops everywhere. Look at all the Pokeballs. Look at all the Pokemon. We're like just standing on a street corner just playing on our phone all day.
Now, I was only prompted to re-download Pokemon Go because we were embracing the Pokemon Let's Go
Yes.
Eevee and Pikachu games on the Nintendo Switch. And because you can download the Pokemon you catch from Pokemon Go into Pokemon Let's Go, try not to get confused there, we decided to re-download Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
I travel a lot for work. Being a train driver, I'll have time to kill when I get to a destination. I can open up my phone, spin a Pokestop at the station, which is kind of convenient because I'm already there, and catch a few Pokemon and work my way towards the goals in the actual story quests. Because that is what hooks me.
Yeah,
like
they've
I
added
said,
those.
the fact that I have legendary Pokemon, you go through the 9 chapters or whatever to actually unlock them, and you have 3 objectives at a time to work towards. It gives me a goal to work towards. That makes Brendo a happy gamer.
And can you say again how you have like 30 seconds to play a game and you'll pull your phone out to play it and then put it away again?
To work towards a goal.
Still.
And that is why it made the list. That's why I could not help but put it near the top, because it actually fulfilled, as much as I hate to admit it, the very thing that you said you play video games on your mobile phone for. Short bursts.
Yes.
I'm waiting for my taxi to pick me up.
How many times have you contradicted yourself in this episode? We'll have to do a running tally.
7. No, wait, 8. No, wait, now it is 8 because I contradicted myself when I said 7. So now I don't even know if I'm told the truth now or not. Yes. But like we said, the 2 years since we tried it, it has evolved so much. There are obviously more than just the first generation of Pokemon available now. You've got 4 generations. That's a lot more Pokemon to catch, a lot more variety, which means more novelty, which means more enjoyment.
Yes.
You have gym battles, you have trainer versus trainer fights that are coming very soon.
Got raids.
There are raids, which are big group. It's all of you against a boss, and if you beat it, you get a chance to catch whatever it is. That's good, especially when you have busy populated areas, again, that we don't live in.
That was one of the things that was really fun in Japan was as we were walking around, I think it was Akihabara.
It was Shinjuku.
There was this huge crowd of people and we're like, what's going on? And we saw they all had their phone out and as we were walking past, we're like, oh, they're playing Pokemon Go.
For us to
Huge
say
crowd.
there was 1,000 people there would not be an exaggeration. It was monstrous.
It was huge. It was like this, almost like a block of just people all like close to this one building so that they could like be part of this raid. And yeah, it was kind of fun because we saw people obviously playing near the Pokemon centers and stuff like that because they were obviously Pokestops.
Yep.
And it was really kind of fun to see, like, because Japan didn't get the game right away. They had to wait while the rest of the world was like exploding with Pokemon Go fever. The poor Japan that, you know, is the country that brought us Pokemon had to wait. Kind of turn the tables on them a little bit. We always have to wait like at least half a year, sometimes a whole year for a game to come out.
Yeah.
And be localized.
Now, I also recommend it because it does help me get out there and be active. Especially when we were in Japan, I noticed that I was tracking my steps and how many kilometers I'd walked, an awful lot, because we were doing a lot of traveling by foot.
Yes.
Now, since we came back from that trip, I haven't been walking as much, and I haven't been doing much of anything because I'm lazy and a slob. But the fact that I can put eggs into incubators and then I have to walk 2 or 5 or 7 or 10 kilometres to hatch them.
Yeah.
On my meal breaks at work, I'm like, I could go across the road to KFC and get a quick feed, or I could walk a little further and see what my options are out there. And that means I'm more active. It means I'm trying more food and being more healthy and so on and so forth. And it also helps to have something that I love, like Pokemon, and the fact that I do like to catch them all. And when I see a new Pokemon that I haven't seen before, there's a flurry of excitement that occurs in my intestines. I get butterfrees in my belly.
Yeah, it's been good for us now that the weather's starting to improve in Australia. I know, like, as winter is descending upon, everyone in the northern hemisphere. Those of us in the southern hemisphere, we have a warm Christmas. So as the weather gets nicer, as we've got daylight savings, there's more daylight hours for us to go for walks together and say, hey, let's go walk to this park and deliberately take our time catching Pokemon. It's kind of an excuse, like it gives us time together, time to exercise and be out in the sun, but also playing a game at the same time. So it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah. So, final word. When I tried it in 2016, it was garbage.
And people were doing things illegally and driving into other cars or... we literally... Mel and Steve, our Overcooked rivals and friends and family, they had someone crash into the light post outside their house almost a week or two into the Pokemon Go fever in Australia, because they were playing it while they were driving. Please don't ever, ever, ever use your phone when you're driving.
Did they actually catch the Pokemon, though? I need to know.
Share the love. Follow us on Twitter at Brendo Jem. That's BRENDOJEM.
My number 3, my top 3 of mobile games is also a Pokemon game.
Oh, dear.
But it's not Pokemon Go. It's Pokemon Quest, which technically came out on the Switch first, but then moved over to mobile, which I actually think it's better suited for.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of fun. You basically start off on this little island and you get to choose your starter Pokemon from 5. You have Pikachu, Eevee, Charmander, Bulbasaur, or Squirtle to choose from. And you use them, and then I think you very early on have like a Pidgey and a Rattata join you, and you slowly go out and have these battles. So you send them out on like little quests.
Oh, how apt.
And they've got to fight Pokemon and clear all these different stages, and the more you clear, the more Pokemon you get coming to your little park section. So you create different dishes, different stews, and that lures Pokemon to you.
It sounds so sinister.
It does a little.
We've had some fruit flies in our house that I've been constructing traps to kill them with.
Yes.
And I feel like that's what you've been doing with your Pokemon.
No, but it's not killing them. It's a
Putting
friendly
these
lure.
ingredients in. Oh, it's going to lure them in.
Yes, but it's nice. They're happy when they arrive. And you also have on a daily basis a new Pokemon will arrive just of their own accord.
Oh, good.
At your front door. You get like daily credit to spend towards like bonuses that help make the game a little easier. And that's where people could spend money if they wanted to speed that process up.
Of course.
But I have not. I have been good. And you obviously want to get all the Pokemon, and you can't lure evolved Pokemon, so you have to start them off from their young forms, their original forms, and try to evolve them through leveling up. So it's a bit of a grind, but it's a satisfying one, and there's a little bit of story to it of trying to uncover the mystery of this island, and to the point when you finally are confronted with a very snarky Mewtwo.
Oh dear. He's bad enough.
He trash talks you. And if you lose and you come back, oh boy. He's like, I'm back for more. And you're like, you jerk.
Stop beating me. Just let me win.
Mm-hmm. I have yet to actually beat this game because the last section, because it randomly generates the level in your opponents, it's so hard to prepare for. It's really hard to clear. Even if you've got Pokemon that are at their 100 levels and, as strong as they can be, they're not necessarily going to be the best option because they might be completely weak to whatever gets randomly generated.
Yep.
So it's so hard to get through that section. I've been trying to. I have made it through a couple, but not the whole thing yet. But I've had a lot of fun with it. It's been refreshing to have like mini games like this with, I guess, a coat of paint that I really love, and I love the design of all the Pokemon looking all kind of blockish and squarish. And
it is a cool little design.
Yeah, and it was fun. Like when we were in Japan, collecting the Pokemon Quest Gashapon key rings and things like that. So I've really, really enjoyed that one. So that's why that's number 3 on my top 3 list.
Excellent.
Yeah. So what's your number 2?
Now, this game, on its own 2 legs, if it had them, because it's just a triangle that you play as, but if the triangle had legs, this game would stand on its own 2 legs for its gameplay alone. But I have to give Data Wing extra points because it is the very definition of a free, complete game with 0 ads. How's that?
Nice. 0 ads. What about in-app purchases?
Nothing.
Wow.
Completely free. Completely ad-free, and the entirety of the game is yours. It is the story of a triangle.
Yes.
Now, you have very simple controls, and it is one of those games that is simple to learn, difficult to master. The best type of game for drawing people in, and those who want to hang around will hang around. You play as a simple triangle who boosts his way through a level. You can tap or hold the left side of the screen to turn him left, tap the right side of the screen to turn him right, top-down view, and you navigate him through a course or a maze or a racetrack or whatever it is for that very level. The graphics themselves, very simple lines and geometry, and the effects on it remind me a lot of Geometry Wars, which was like a shooter on the original Xbox that first came out. Like, very simple graphics, like I said, just pixeled lines, but then when something explodes or is moved or has a trail, it has like beautiful particle effects and things like that. So the game is breathtakingly beautiful, but very simple. Very cool. It has a story. You're like a little data delivery packet, and you deliver data to wherever your boss tells you to go. Your boss is an overseer who is an AI and who wants to impress his master, but he's been working on his feelings and trying to generate feelings of happiness or disappointment. He'll usually have disappointment towards you because he has scorn for you for whatever reason. It's hard to explain, but certain levels, it's just top down. It floats around the track. You turn left around the left corner, right around the right corner. You can have different objectives. One might be to race against other data dudes. One might be to get to the goal within a certain time. One might be get there without colliding with anything. Simple things like that. But there's also modifiers on some levels where they add gravity, which turns it from a free-floating, almost like a racecourse style game, into more of a platformer. Because you have gravity and you need to use momentum and physics to actually build up your thrust along the wall to get more speed so you can make it over certain jumps. It's very clever, very simple, very beautiful, very everything. It's very everything. I don't know how to explain it more than that. It's very everything. This game gets 5 out of 5 reviews everywhere I've looked. It is fantastic. It's been very enjoyable, and like I said, it gets the most marks for fitting right within what we were trying to find.
A completely free game.
A completely free game.
Nice.
Kudos to whoever built it. Dan Vogt.
That definitely came up on a few lists when I was looking up games that people loved. That was always in their top 10.
Well, like you said, reviews of other people can be helpful to help you choose. And when you have 175,000 reviews and your average out of 5 is 4.9...
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. Nice work. It's made me chuckle with its humour in the actual dialogue. It's simple enough, like I said, for anyone to pick up and play. Very cool once you get the feel of it and you want to just keep improving using those physics and things like that. I give it a solid recommendation. Data Wing, or Data Wing, if that's your pronunciation. Data Wing, just play the game.
My number 2 would be Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. No surprise there.
Pocket Camp.
So it is a kind of a spin-off, obviously, of the Animal Crossing games. Very cutesy, but you have a camp instead of a village or a town that you're basically taking care of. And what I think I love most about this is that you're not punished. like you are in Animal Crossing, if you leave it alone for a few days, things don't fall apart on you. The great thing about Animal Crossing Pocket Camp is that you can take your time with things. They have a lot of seasonal kind of challenges or like bonus things to go for. It's still got all the cutesy sounds that you know and love. And because it's like a Nintendo game, you know, there's a lot of crossover things. There's like Mario or Splatoon or Pokemon stuff even that comes in. My little character is wearing an Eevee hat around my camp. So you get to build this camp and you slowly work towards adding all these facilities, and that's a slow grind. You've got different like sections that you can visit, like a beach, there is an island, there is a forest, there's an area for catching bugs, for fishing, all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And you collect things, you do a lot of fetch quests on a daily basis, basically, for all these people that are going camping. And you can invite them back to your special campsite if you've built up enough friendship and done enough favors for them.
That sounds a little cultish.
Possibly.
Join my team of druids in the woods.
And it got to the point where I'd nearly done everything. Like, I'd built everything. I had made friends with everyone and got their friendship levels up to a certain point. And then they added, like, a bunch more. So they keep adding things and updating it almost on a weekly basis. And depending on the season, like, the atmosphere changes. Now, because the game is kind of based on Japanese holidays and things like that, it will reflect that in the game. So even though it's summer now in Australia, it looks like winter. So there's starting to be a bit of snowfall, or it's like late autumn.
Yeah, we get that a lot with Christmas movies. It's always snowing.
Yes, like it's kind of weird singing songs about snow in Australia when you're sitting there in your bathers and like melting from the heat. But anyway, it's just a really charming game, and I think for anyone who loves Animal Crossing, it's a great, less stressful version.
It's built for kids though, isn't it? Why is it so stressful?
I find the real one stressful because I hate that I get punished for leaving it alone.
Real-time decay.
Exactly. So if you put that game down, if I went and I reloaded the one on my DS, Isabel would be very upset with me. She'd be like, her hair would be all frazzled, and there would be weeds everywhere in the town, and people would have literally left. Like, they move if you don't interact with them on a daily basis in the game on the DS. They crack it and they leave. So there's pressure, right?
I understand. The original State of Decay game on Xbox 360 had that as well, where if you left your zombie camp, real time it would decay. And if you left it for more than 2 days, you'd come back and a lot of your hard work would be gone. So you'd be like, why do I even bother playing this?
Yeah. And it can become stressful. So the reason I love Pocket Camp is that I can leave it alone. I can forget about it for a week even, and I can come back and it's fine. No one's mad at me. I can pick up where I left off. I might have missed out on some special event stuff, but that's it. The other thing that I really love is that you can link your Nintendo profile, which means if something happens to my phone, if the game gets wiped for whatever reason, I can reload my old save. It will know exactly where I'm up to. It remembers everything that I've done, everything I've crafted, and I can pick up where I left off. I don't have to worry about losing the progress that I've made.
Very handy.
Yes, very handy, especially when you've got some limited edition items that come out in some of those special events that if I had to start from scratch again, I wouldn't be able to ever get back. So it's not the biggest deal, but like there's things like that you kind of get worried about, it's even though it's a digital world, you kind of get worried about things crashing and being completely lost. So what is your number one?
All right. So while I was trying a lot of these games, downloading them, giving them a test, if I failed at something, delete, quit, out of here, not enjoying that. Next, download, fail, delete. Next, download, fail, delete. Next, I downloaded one game, and when I failed, I'm like, no, that's not how this is going to go. I'm trying this again. And that was the first time that I realized that Plague Inc. had infected my brain. Now, this is certainly not a new game by anybody's standards, World Health Organization or otherwise. It came out in like 2012, I think. I've seen memes about how hard Greenland is to infect, things like that on the internet, and I've always had this game on my periphery, my outside of my vision throughout the years, but I've never actually tried it. And it is a game that is quite addictive and quite compelling. You name a disease, a bacteria or a virus. If you beat bacteria on normal, you unlock virus, which spreads differently and reacts differently. And then you beat virus, you unlock fungus, and so on and so forth. You name your disease, you set it out there, and you choose where to begin, and that's pretty much it. And from there, you can choose to evolve it in certain ways. Your goal is to infect and destroy all of humanity, which is a pet project of mine on the weekends.
Like the pinky in the brain.
Exactly. Every day we're going to try this. Now, like I said, I'm not a mobile gamer, but in the 4 days since I downloaded Plague Inc., that's Inc. as in incorporated, not as in the stuff that you mark things with.
Yep.
Just clarifying that if anyone wants to spell it correctly in the search engine. I have played it on train trips into the city, and before I know it, I've almost overshot the place I'm supposed to get out. That's dangerous for a train driver.
You should not be playing it while you're driving.
Traveling, not driving. I'm just a simple passenger.
But then how can you overshoot if you're not the one who's driving?
Overshoot my destination. I'm supposed to get out at station number
stop.
10.
You made it sound like you were driving because you use that phrase overshoot like when you're driving and have to match up the carriages to where they're supposed to be on the platform.
In the interest of my job security and public safety perspective, I will rename that as overcarried. I almost got overcarried beyond the station I planned to exit the train on because I was so wrapped up in this game.
You know how normal people say it? I almost missed my stop.
And
sorry, you're just so used to using your train lingo. I'm like, in English, please.
Don't make me infect you with sweatpox or dung fungus.
Ew.
Or
the drippies.
Or the drippies. Don't forget my very first disease, which was called the drippies. And nobody wants to catch the drippies. Sweden has fallen into anarchy because of the drippies. Fantastic. Now, this game does have a premium edition that you can unlock with a cost.
Yep.
And the most frustrating part about that is the fast forward function is included in that cost. You can play the tutorial at whatever speed you like. You can play the main game at normal speed only. So when you're sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting for South Africa to finally be infected with your latest disease, and it's just taking forever, you can fast forward if you pay a fee. Now, you unlock a lot of other stuff too, but as its own standalone game, if you do have the patience, which has been a recurring theme for a lot of these games that we've recommended, if you have the patience to spend an hour doing a session of trying to make sure that your latest disease takes over the world without being eradicated by those pesky doctors, then Plague Incorporated does get a big thumbs up from me. There is a console editions as well, which is called Plague Inc. Evolved. There's even a board game that you could use to presumably, I wouldn't trust it because who wants to buy a board game called Plague Inc. and the goal of it is to spread a virus and who knows if there's anthrax inside that box or not. I probably will stick to the digital version. Thank you very much.
Yes.
But my crowning achievement in Plague Inc. was when I unleashed the most deadly infectious disease that I've ever created. Hulkamania was running wild, brother. Everyone caught Hulkamania. It caught on like wildfire. Everybody caught it. It was going everywhere. You can't stop Hulkamania, brother.
Oh my
And
goodness.
then it evolved to have diarrhea and vomiting and insanity and rashes, abscesses. Your usual WrestleMania, Hulkamania side effects. Hulkamania's running wild, brother.
There's so many jokes I want to make right now. I can't choose one. There's so many. Oh man. So what would you rate that out of 10?
6 test tubes out of 6.
Ooh.
Thought I'd go for 6. 6 stars.
It definitely looks like a lot of fun. I'm tempted to download it after watching you play.
Although every time you watch me, you're like, come on, Australia, stay healthy, fight it, fight it.
More often than not, though, every time I see you play, Australia's the one that's like making the cure to help fight it. They're on the bandwagon faster than most other countries, at least the few times that I've watched you. I'm like, yeah, go Aussies. So, all right, my number one game for mobiles, free to play, is Fallout Shelter.
A game that was surprise launched at an E3 a few years ago.
2015 it came out, and it has been going strong ever since. They have made over $90 million from microtransactions in that short amount of time.
The core gamers hate microtransactions.
Yes.
And all of the casual gamers around them are just like throwing their money at these things.
The problem is, though, this game appeals to hardcore gamers, because who knows about Fallout? Hardcore gamers that play on the console. So...
I was going to say people who had a nuclear explosion occur very close to their house. But...
No, the people that were first on the bandwagon that helped them make that first $5 million within the first, like, couple of weeks or whatever were all the gamers. So the funny thing is all the people that, like, crack it about the microtransactions were the ones that were shelling it out for those lunch boxes early on.
What are you all doing?
I have not spent a single cent on this game, and I downloaded it day one. Right? So I've achieved much, and I've made many shelters, and I've had lots of fun doing weird experiments, much like Voltec would.
Just like an overseer.
Exactly.
You're an overseer at heart, baby.
Sometimes I'll deliberately, like, kill off a gender, or I'll be like, no, this is the one woman and the rest get sent out to the wastelands or something like that. You know, it's kind of fun doing weird things, because after a while, once you've created the full vault, then you've got to start making it more challenging. At least in the early days you had to. Now they have added so much more to this game to keep it going.
Knock, knock. Who's at the door? It's a Deathclaw.
Lots
or
of
6 of
Deathclaws.
them.
Yes, oh my goodness, I hate when that happens. But they have missions now. They've got story missions. You can go out, you can send your best vault dweller out to go into the wasteland to do all these different quests, and they've got story, and there's actual, like, you know, text to be read that can be built on that. They've added a lot of different layers to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's given the game some more longevity. It's just also really cute and charming. I love the art style.
Absolutely.
And the sound effects and everything. So if you love Fallout games, there's a lot of things that you will love about it. But even if you don't know Fallout or have never played a Fallout game, I think if you like mobile games and you like timed things kind of similar to Tiny Towers in a weird way, with building the vault, just with some added side quests, I guess more meat to it really, then you would love this as well. So this is why this is my favorite. And for a game, you know, a mobile game like you said with the data wing,
Yes.
this is also one of the most highly rated mobile games. It has an average of 4.5 stars and has over 800,000 reviews.
Well, that is a lot of reviews.
Yeah, that's a pretty good ratio, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to have that kind of average with that many reviews, I think speaks pretty well for it.
Yep.
And it's a game that I go back to time and time again, and I was excited when they added it to the PlayStation because I'm like, yes, now I can get trophies for doing this. So it's a lot of fun. One of those ones that you can kind of play for a really short burst and then kind of come back to it because your rooms constantly kind of need maintenance. You might need to collect the food, the water, the power sources and things to keep things running.
That food sound effect is delicious.
It is. It's an engaging game. It's one that constantly has new updates and new like holiday skins as well, much like Animal Crossing did. It'll have seasonal things that get added to it. So there's always something new to do, even for people who've been playing it as long as I have. Worth checking out, and definitely one that you can play without spending any money. So...
And I think we can say unequivocally, it's a better game than Fallout 76.
True. Oh, poor Fallout 76. So much potential. And we knew that those nuke codes were going to be problems.
Yep.
Yes. Let's hope that they're working on something else.
Maybe something like good.
Yeah, a proper full game with NPCs.
Yeah, and
Please?
characters and
Yeah.
quests and
Story.
moral choice. All the
Yes.
things we actually enjoy in Fallout.
So those are our top picks for mobile games. There are so many others out there that we have played that we like, but that we didn't want to like bog down with too many things.
And of course, there's so many that we didn't try because
Yes.
there's about 8 billion games to try on these stores.
Mm-hmm.
But we thought we covered a lot of different bases. You got strategy games, action. We got a bit of infecting, which is always good. Everyone
Puzzle
likes a bit of that.
games, action, adventure, story. There is so many. And honestly, if you have a style of game that you love, all you have to do is like go into the App Store, whether it's for Android or iOS, and type in the style or look through like the categories of genres, and you'll find something that appeals to you. So sometimes you need to just download and try it. If you don't like it, delete it.
Yep, we
Simple
got
as
games
that.
that take hours to play. We got games that take 30 seconds, and you can be in and out and done.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. It has been an eye-opening experience for myself. This is somewhere I don't venture often,
Yes.
but I can't say that I didn't enjoy the trip.
Again, if you have any recommendations for us of things that you think we should have included or that we need to try out for ourselves, let us know at thegaminglovers.com or on our social media pages. We would love to hear from you. Until next time,
Gaming goals.
we need to have some gaming goals. We can actually play some normal games.
Fantastic. I'm going to be playing nothing but the mobile adaptation of Neverwinter Nights for my $13.99 that I'm going to spend right now. Probably not. I do intend on continuing Yakuza 0. I will try to make some more progress in the actual story instead of just wasting time in the streets of Dotonbori.
I think Dark Souls needs to be on your menu too.
I do have a day or two off this week, so I'll make sure I get on that relatively soon.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to do my best to at least get close or try to finish the main campaign in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I feel
You've
like
set a lofty goal there.
I feel like I'm close to it, but I could be completely off the mark. This might be Trails of Cold Steel 2 all over again, where I keep thinking I've hit the
Every
end of the
episode,
story.
you're like,
I'm
yep,
like,
I'm
yeah,
near
at
the end.
I'm at the end. I'm like, no, they lied to me.
Okay, I wasn't at the end last time, but I'm at the end this time. All right, I beat the epilogue, and there's now another chapter after that. I don't understand if they don't understand what an epilogue is.
I want to catch up to you in Pokemon Let's Go. I've neglected my poor Eevee a little bit lately, so I want to jump back into that too. So
You'll come back, and his hair will be all frizzy, and there'll be weeds everywhere. And
Oh no!
what if he's abandoned you
Never.
and went to Gary Oak instead?
You mean Blue?
Blue, sorry.
Blue. It's so weird. I'm like, I know that that's the original, but like that just sounds so wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'll be jumping back into the Kanto region and get some more gym badges, try to catch up to you a little bit. I think those will remain my goals for a little while.
And most importantly, if you do have any recommendations for disease names for my games of Plague Incorporated, watch out, because the Love Rat virus will be running wild very soon.
Oh, okay. Thanks for listening to the Gaming Lovers episode 33.
And if you do want to hear Jem say the word Bayonara, you will have to pay the $1.49 to unlock the premium gem.
Bayonara. I gave it for free.
How are we ever supposed to make money at this rate? Chowski.
Thanks for listening to the Gaming Lovers podcast. For more episodes or to watch some live stream gaming, visit thegaminglovers.com.